Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with another slasher film review. Gonna be another blind review, a film I haven't seen for quite some time, but I'm very familiar with. And I figured, why not do my favorite slasher film? I mean, obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my second favorite movie ever, but as far as, not precursor slashers, like slashers, this is my favorite, the one that started it all, John Carpenter's Halloween. Which, it's always been sort of a tie for my favorite slasher between Halloween and Friday the 13th. I think on the surface, Friday the 13th is more of what I like. You know, great bloody kills, awesome gore effects, big high body counts. But Halloween is just a genius movie. Very well made movie. This is more of the stalk and slash. Like, there's a reason why, this started the genre. And also, of all the covers out there for this movie, this is my favorite. This is my favorite Halloween poster, which I think is the original. The Night He Came Home. And, I mean, another reason why, or pretty much the main reason why it's pretty much my favorite, is because of the simplicity. I'm a big fan of simplicity. Meaning, okay, it's called Halloween, takes place on Halloween. Really, at its core, it's a killer escapes from a mental hospital, goes back to his hometown, and is stalking a group of babysitters on Halloween night. It's like a slasher film meets like When a Stranger Calls, which I'll be reviewing sometime soon. And of course, this is the movie that gave us a Michael Myers, one of, if not the most iconic slasher killer out there. This is the movie that gave us Jamie Lee Curtis, and you just get John Carpenter. This is my favorite John Carpenter film. I mean, his remake of The Thing is a fantastic movie. It really is a special effects extravaganza. But I'm more about serial killers than aliens, as good as that movie is. And just I don't know how. One, I don't know how I can praise this movie enough. Two, I don't know what I could say that hasn't been said already. Everything about this movie works and is perfect. You have everything you need for what the genre would become. You have a kill sometime in the past. We jump ahead to present day. It's on either a holiday or special occasion, a day of celebration. You have your group of teens or characters, and you have a guy in a mask, and you have him being killed off. You have the final girl, and a great ending. Now again, is Jamie Lee Curtis the first final girl? No. I mean, like I said earlier about precursor slashers, because I mean, you had Alice Sweet Alice in 1976 before this. 74, you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, my second favorite movie of all time. Black Christmas. And go back even farther, you have the Godfather of slasher films, 1960 Psycho, which is also my top 5 favorite movies of all time. But, or even 1971, you have Mario Bava's A Bay of Blood. But through all that stuff, it was this movie that really made the blueprint for the genre. And then it was Friday the 13th that came along and said, hey, we can do that too, but we're just going to have a ball. We're just going to go crazy with blood and gore. And I really like how this movie opens up. You get the POV shot, which will become a popular trope throughout the genre. POV shot outside a house, watching this couple make out on the couch and go upstairs. Then you have, still, through the eyes of this person going through the house, getting a kitchen knife, staying in the shadows. Boyfriend leaves, goes upstairs. The girl's brushing her hair. She recognizes the killer, stabs her to death, which he also picks up a mask, so we get like this, it's like a domino mask, like what Robin wears. So you get like this little view, and it's obscured, and it's quick, and it's shaky, and it looks amazing, really raw looking. And then the killer goes, we go downstairs, someone walks up to him, we find out it's a 6-year-old child. And it's like, what? So then we jump 15 years ahead, and possibly the greatest role by Donald Pleasance. I mean, Donald Pleasance, he's a great actor. He's been in so many things. But Dr. Sam Loomis, which is one of the many allusions to Psycho, because Sam Loomis was the character that Janet Leigh's character, Marion Crane, was dating in Psycho. Jamie Lee Curtis is Janet Leigh's daughter, so a lot of callbacks to Psycho. It's almost like, you have Granddaddy, the father, and then what followed after. Jamie Lee Curtis is sort of well, actually, before I go there, the shots of just Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis, who is the psychiatrist of Michael Myers. That's when we find out that's the killer's name. He hasn't said a word in 15 years. He's going to be transferred. And when they pull up to the gate, even when I was a kid, I mean, I saw this. Well, the first Halloween movie I ever saw was Halloween 4 on cable. I don't know, 4th or 5th grade. But then I saw this one, and I always thought this shot was really creepy, and I still do. Because you're looking through this windshield, which is all rainy. You can just see what the headlight shows you. And it's nighttime, it's pitch fucking black. You just see all these people in white gowns because something went wrong, and all the mental patients are out front. It's just seeing them come into focus through the darkness. It's really eerie. Then you get that shot of Michael jumping up on the roof of the car, and when his hand comes down the window and smacks the glass, steals the car, makes his way to the fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois, where, because the girl he killed in the beginning was his sister. Don't know why he did it. It never says. That's why this movie is the only pure Halloween film, in my opinion. Because after that, John Carpenter intended him to be the Shape. That's what he was called, the Shape. Because he's a shape of a human being. He's just the embodiment of pure evil. An unstoppable force of evil. And you can't stop evil, you can't kill the boogeyman. His family's house is now the creepy house that people will cross the street to avoid, and kids always dare each other to go knock on the door. Well, Jamie Lee Curtis plays Laurie Strode. Probably it's probably a tie between her and Sally Hardesty from Chainsaw Massacre for my favorite final girls. Laurie Strode is supposed to represent the moral compass that society deems you well enough to survive. Because she is very, she's very modest. She's a bookworm. does well in school, doesn't have time for boyfriends or going out with the girls or anything. Very smart. She has to drop off a real estate key at the Myers house for her father. And when she drops it off, we get this shot in the back of the house, sort of looking through the screen door. When she sets it down, he steps into frame. So it's like because she did that, she is now chosen by him. That's why he's going to stalk her. And we get many shots of him walking by her and driving by her. I love this shot where, because she's a babysitter, and the kid she babysits is a kid named Tommy Doyle. He gets picked on at school. The kids that pick on him, they're running out of the school, and Michael stops him. Then you get this great tracking shot where Michael's just walking by this chain link fence, and it goes to the score, which I'll get to, because the score is a whole topic in and of itself. And, you know, Laurie's best friend is this sort of free spirit girl named Annie. So, kind of rebellious. Her father is the Sheriff Brackett, played by... Oh, of course it doesn't say. I always forget his name. I'm not going to live this down. So, yeah, her father is the sheriff. Find out there's been a break-in at hardware store. A mask was taken, some knives. Jamie Lee Curtis's other friend, played by PJ Souls, she plays Linda, who is sort of the valley girl, sort of airhead, always popping her bubble gum, says totally in every sentence. So those are our sort of babysitters, even though Laurie and Annie are the only babysitters that we follow. And Laurie's the only one that takes her babysitting seriously. Annie talks to her boyfriend a lot about them getting together and having sex. Linda and her boyfriend, they're riding around his vans drinking. And it's just a lot of tension, a lot of build-up. Because, you know, you get a lot of great shots, like Tommy looking out the window across the street, and you just see under like a porch light a shadowy figure. And I also really like how this takes place in just regular Anytown suburbia. It's not in the woods, it's not the big city, it's not, you know, it literally is like in Anytown. Anybody that watches this can look at that and be like, oh, that's like this part of my town. Even Clive Barker himself said that's scarier than gothic castles and caves and graveyards, because it's real and it's relatable. The other thing about Halloween is there's no blood. It's a bloodless slasher. But John Carpenter is such an artist of a director that it's okay. I mean, any other like run-of-the-mill slasher film that's not very bloody or gory, I would be underwhelmed and very disappointed. But with this, there's just so much substance around it. Music, lighting, angles of shots, execution of shots. Like, there's only 2 other movies I can think of that do something Halloween did. It's one of my favorite things about this movie. Now, Laurie is watching Tommy in this house. Annie is watching Lindsay across the street. They're talking on the phone to each other. Now, Annie's in the kitchen making popcorn. She's walking around talking on the phone. If you look in the background, you can see Michael in the window, like watching her. So then we cut to Laurie saying something, and when we cut back to Annie, if you look, he's gone. And nowadays, that shot would be an instant boo scare. Like the new It movie is like, boom, zoom right in, like, boo, you're scared now. No, subtle. You gotta catch it. It's almost like Michael's watching you. So it's like you're watching the movie, you just kind of look a little beyond the characters, and it's just like, oh, that's fucked up, that's scary. It's like he's watching you. You have to catch it. That's why it's creepy. And I'm pretty sure the scene where Linda and Bob are having sex shows them in the bed, but you see like Michael just walk right by the bed in the bedroom to get by to somewhere else. And it's just all built around this Halloween night. Like, you do get some, like when Michael steps into frame, or like when he kills the dog, which sucks. You get like this bong. But mostly it's just very subtle. Of course, there's the shot of him when Laurie and Annie are walking home, where he's standing, like, this is a hedge, and he's like standing like sort of behind it. When Laurie's up in her bedroom, she looks out the window, he's standing behind sheets that are hanging to dry. And I love the look of Michael Myers. It's fucking simple. All black coveralls, just expressionless white face, which is actually a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask that they widened the eyes and painted white. And I think that mask perfectly, yeah, that's another early cover, which that one's alright, but that's my Halloween cover. But yeah, just that emotionless white face. It's just perfect for who he is, because there's nothing there but evil. You also get Dr. Loomis riding around with the sheriff because he knows Michael's in Haddonfield. He knows what he's going to do. You get this great speech where he says the whole, like, I met this 6-year-old boy with this blind, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes. The devil's eyes. Like, I spent 7 years trying to reach him, and then another 8 trying to keep him locked away, because I knew what was behind those eyes was simply and purely evil. So he's kind of what's known as like the Ahab in these movies. He embodies everything that's good that tries to stop the killer. And I mean, the deaths, I mean, you get like a strangulation, 2 strangulations, one with a phone cord, which I like that scene too, where PJ Souls is in the bed. Michael has just killed Bob. This great scene where he picks him up, stabs him to the wall, and he just does this like inquisitive like head tilt, like he's admiring what he did. And he just wears this sheet with Bob's glasses. So it's like she thinks that's her boyfriend, but she doesn't realize that's like a killer under there, and that's pretty frightening. And just because of John Carpenter's lighting, when Laurie realizes she hasn't heard from her friends in a while, so she goes across the street and she sees her friends have been murdered, and she's like standing in this darkened hallway, and just out of the darkness you just see this white face slowly form in the darkness and come towards her. And that is so fucking creepy. And of course, like, she falls down the stairs and hurts her leg. So you just get that tension. Another thing, killers never run. A lot of them do, but the scariest ones walk. They'll still catch you. And I forgot to mention in my Shining review how people thought Shelley Duvall's performance as Wendy was kind of misogynistic. Like, she just cries and screams and runs around scared, doesn't try to solve anything. I mean, she did a lot of screaming and crying and running for her life too. And she did a very good job at it, but she still got stuff done. Like, she got him in the neck with a sewing needle. She hid in the closet and undid a coat hanger, got him in the eye. Which, I love that closet scene too, because you get the light that's on a chain flopping around, and you hear his breathing, which that's another great thing. There'll be scenes where you just hear like the. It sounds more like a guy in a mask when he does it, but. And probably my favorite shot of the movie is after she thinks she killed Michael. She gets the kids and says, go down to the neighbors. And she sort of sits there and has like a breath of, like a moment to catch herself. And in the background, this is genius. Nowadays, they would fuck it up with loud, bombastic music and shaky cam and zooms. And you can see Michael laying on the floor in the background. He's not even in focus. He's all blurry. Jamie Lee Curtis is in focus. He's blurry. You just see him sit straight up like a vampire and turn his head towards her. And just as he turns his head, it's just like, dun, dun, dun. Excellent. It's like that great, like Hitchcock kind of suspense. The audience knows something's going to happen, but the character doesn't. That's the key to suspense. That's what Alfred Hitchcock always said. And Hitchcock is a huge influence on John Carpenter. Like, that's the reason why Carpenter puts his name on top of everything. And then the ending where Loomis comes in, shoots him 6 times. He falls off the balcony. He's laying on the ground. And then when he looks back, he's gone. And you get that great sequence where you get the score, you hear him breathing, and we just see the darkened areas of everywhere we've been that night in the movie. The living room, the hallway, outside. It's showing he could be anywhere. He's out there still and he could be anywhere. Probably the best ending to a slasher film. Just to show the killer's unstoppable and he could be anywhere in a stylized way. I really wish this movie stopped after the first one. I really like Halloween 2, but that's when they fucked up the story. That's when he stopped being the Shape. That's when he just became a guy that tried to kill his family members. If this movie never had a sequel, it would still have the greatest slasher ending ever. They never intended to have a sequel. They just wanted it to leave open-ended because, the killer's still out there somewhere. Which I think is a great ending. And then, of course, you have the score, which John Carpenter composed. He composes a lot of his own scores. And originally, he wanted it with no music. He thought it would be sort of straight, play it straight. It might make it a bit more real or whatever. And when he showed it to people, they thought it was boring. They didn't think it was scary at all. So someone suggested music, and he just did a little 4 or 5 time signature. That famous theme that we all know. I can't do it with my mouth, so I'm not going to. And he put that and a few other musical numbers over it. And those same people that watched it thought it was the scariest thing ever. I think it was him that said the score is a third of this movie. Which, same thing with Hitchcock on Psycho. He wanted it straight with no music. Bernard Herrmann scored it. Hitchcock watched the shower scene with it. And he realized that it opened the movie right up. This movie is just so perfect. I mean, people want to say that slasher films, there's nothing to them. It's just a guy stalking teenagers and killing them while they have sex or smoke dope or whatever. Watch this. Okay, this is how you do it in a beautifully cinematic way. Now, I mean, this was only made for like $300,000, which back in 1978 was still incredibly cheap. And it made like a few $100 million. It was the most successful independent film up until Blair Witch Project. So that's insane. But you know, even the other musical pieces like the dun dun, or even that slower one, the slower reprise of the main theme. Dun, 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 dun. Those two are supposed to be over each other, but with like when Laurie's walking around or whatever, just a great score, and it's so simple. It is why Jaws is so effective. Dun-dun. It's simple. You know what it means. I can't praise this movie enough. When it comes to slasher films, this is the best. Again, on the surface, Friday the 13th is more what I look for in a slasher film. Bloody, gory deaths. But this is how you make a great movie out of it. And yeah, with each succeeding sequel, it got further and further away from what made Halloween Halloween, which is unfortunate. I wish it stayed by itself. Rob Zombie totally missed the fucking point of Halloween and Michael Myers in his remake. But yeah, literally just a faceless, unstoppable killer going after babysitters on Halloween night. With a great score, creepy-ass atmosphere, in a very familiar-looking place that looks like any town in America. And that was what sold the movie for Miramax. I had a brain fart. Because of Babysitter. He knew how relatable babysitters were. Every kid in America has had one. Almost every woman and girl has been one. So, home run of an idea for a slasher film. Just, it's brilliant. It is the perfect slasher film. Again, no blood, no gore, neither does Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But, I don't know. I was going to say something comparing the two, but I decided not to. But yeah, I'm just going to start repeating myself. Halloween, excellent, excellent slasher film. It literally spawned the genre. Like, after Halloween, that's when they all started coming out. Of course, then Friday the 13th, they were like, oh, we can do this with anything now. Again, there were examples before Halloween, but this showed them how it's done. So for Room 237, that's Halloween. Thank you.